Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 164 of the High Sensitivity Podcast, and thank you for listening. If it's your first time here, we talk about video game and movie news, as well as we watched or played over the week. My name is Barry, along with my co-hosts.
My name is Craig. Still have not beaten Tears of the Kingdom.
My name is also Craig. Also, still haven't beaten Tears of the Kingdom. Did get through the Final Fantasy demo though. That counts, right?
Ooh, yes.
That's something beaten.
Yeah. Mark it off. Boom.
Yeah, by the
Boom.
time you guys see the video version, we will be, I don't know, drowning in Final Fantasy 16. Is that the
Drowning.
Something
Yes.
like
drowning
that.
in it? Yeah.
That's
What
accurate.
we're also not drowning in this week is the news, because there isn't a lot, at least on
That
my
was
end.
smart. I like that.
That was such a
Yeah.
good transition. I love it.
That was a top tier transition for sure.
Yep.
Thank you. You know, I didn't even plan it. It just kind of came out of my
Yeah.
mouth. So
Those
I'll
are the
take
best
it.
ones.
Yeah, the
Those
ones I
are.
don't plan.
Yeah.
First up is going to be Starfield. Has come out about some of the specs. Starfield is going to be locked at 30 frames a second, 4K on the Series X, but at 1440p on the Series S. Todd Howard confirmed there is no fidelity or performance mode. Whatever console you're playing on is what you're stuck on. I didn't see much about the computer portion of things though, because it's usually a lot more customizable on computer. But that nevertheless made a lot of people angry because they want higher frame rates on their games at this point. And I know at one point we were all told like, okay, 4K and 120 frames a second will now be the new standard.
Yep.
And now we're still, we're years into the console cycle at this point, and it's still we're still not even close. It's still 30 frames a second. That's what you're gonna get.
Yep.
Yeah.
But does this really matter to any of you guys? Like, or does it?
Not
Or
to
is
me.
it just like,
Uh,
yeah? Or is it just?
I
nitpicky?
always do fidelity when I have the option anyway.
Yeah.
Like I've
Hmm.
always done that, except if I'm playing like a Souls game, then I go performance. But yeah, I mean, nah, I'm not too worried about it. I guess I do agree with you though that we were sold on 4K, 120 hertz, 120 frames per second was like the thing, and we're definitely not getting it. We probably never will, honestly.
Yeah.
Or
I
at
also
least
know
not
that
till
like
like the very end of the
Yeah.
console cycle.
yeah, and like none of us were really exactly, counting down this game either. It doesn't necessarily destroy my highest hopes for the highest game that I've wanted to play on my list,
Right.
but it's still not the best news.
Yeah, and all we can really do is just hope that like it's gonna have to focus on the game. Like the game itself is going to have to be enough for us to be happy with, really, because if like even then, like 60 frames seems to be like what people are going for right now, and just to hear that it's even
Hmm.
half of that is just like, okay, well, this game better look pretty, which the trailers as such showed that it is a good looking game, but I'm not
Right.
sure
Hmm.
how, you know, and you really won't know until you start playing it, until we get more out of it, despite the fact that there was an entire direct, Starfield presentation
Yeah.
for it.
Yep.
Doesn't it prove remember how when we first saw footage of it, we were talking about how we didn't like the actual gameplay or how clunky it looked when they were showing like the shooting nature. It does kind of explain that a little bit more as well
Yeah.
as to why it looked
It looks better
like that.
than we saw last year.
Correct.
It
Yeah, I
does.
agree.
Yeah.
It does.
So they've definitely put the work in.
Next up on my end is going to be the Overwatch story stuff is apparently paywalled. So we did get, and this is a follow up from last week where we did get a trailer with Overwatch showing that story missions were going to be available for the game. And now it's kind of come out that instead of like it being like during the PvE times of Overwatch 1, it was just free. It was a free update. You could do they weren't story missions, I'd say. They were PvE. You could group up with 4 friends and play through a certain mission of some sort. Now it seems as though you will have to pay $15 for the first 3 missions that are supposed to come out later this year. A couple things about it. At least they did say one mission that they went through took about 30 minutes. So that is it's a hefty mission. That's
Mm-hmm.
It's not, just single, but it does feel a little cheap considering that we were told no, we're not getting story mode anymore, now we're getting story missions. And yeah, our game is free to play, but if you want to play those story missions, you got to pay for it. Kind of deal where maybe I would be more willing just to pay $60 and then whatever like updates they come out with story missions, were included. But that doesn't seem to be the case here. Overwatch is probably looking at themselves and going, okay, nobody's really buying anything. Let's make the story stuff. You got to buy
Yeah.
it. You got to buy it if you want to play story with your friends. And who knows if it's something where each person has to buy it, or if one person can buy it and then your friends can play with you. That would be kind of telling to what Overwatch and Blizzard may be trying to do here. If it's something where if us three play together, we each have to spend $15. That's I think, pretty steep, and also
Yeah.
also
Yes.
pretty crummy of them to do, considering that they've seemed to have 180'd on this like story mission stuff. And not only that, it's like, okay, we're not making it, it's not included, but now you got to pay for it. Just kind of crummy and sucks in my eyes.
Yeah, what's the level of degree that they're at now? Because they like 180'd on the story, and now it's kind of like another half. What is it, like a 90-degree? Like, where are we at with the degrees in which they're changing around their take on these story missions? So it's, I don't know.
It
Go ahead,
reminds me
Craig.
of Fortnite. That's what it reminds me of, right?
Yeah,
Fortnite had
kind of, yeah.
that mode way back in the day that you had to buy, and
Mhm.
then but Fortnite's popular, so it's a little different, but still kind of the same thing. They're like, oh, we do have this other mode that we promised, but you do have to pay. I don't remember how much that was, like 30 or 40, I think.
Mhm.
But I don't know. Yeah, it seems like I get it. It's a way for them to make money if they're not making a whole lot of money, and it probably costs a decent amount to make these story missions. But you said it's only 3, right?
Yeah, it's the first 3 story missions for $15. So it's, $5 a mission.
So they're gonna be making more down the line
Sounds
and
like it.
charging
Sounds
you.
like they are.
Yeah.
Probably. That's going to be the issue, or like the part that
Hmm.
I have a problem with as well. And there
Yeah,
are these other editions where it's, okay, you can pay $30 and you're going to get legendary skins for certain heroes. And then if you pay $40, you get, the legendary skins plus 20 skips on the battle pass that Overwatch does. It just seems like, that's just like, okay, let's milk this for all of its worth.
yeah.
People
Yeah.
wanted story mode. People are going to pay for it, is what it sounds like.
I wonder if people will though.
I'm
I mean, there's
interested. I
somebody
want to
out there that
try him.
will.
I want
Yeah.
to try him. Like that's
Yeah.
Okay.
It's working. It's working. It's
I just
Yeah.
working
don't
on
care enough
Barry.
about Overwatch to want to pay money to play a single player.
I at least
Nor do
yeah, I
I.
at least want to try it. I always thought the PvE modes were fun. They just never did enough.
Hmm.
And
Mm.
now that I'm hearing that the PvE mode is in there, just in the story mode, and that one of them is like 30 minutes, that's at least some decent amount of content. So yeah.
Sure.
We then have, for me, it's just like 2 smaller stuff. Is Fire Emblem for Game Boy Advance is being added to the Nintendo expansion pack on June 23rd. Uh, Kind of cool considering that we're now starting to get more of the Fire Emblem games added in. We had the Fire
Hmm.
Emblem Mystery or Shadow of the Shadow Dragon thing, collector's edition, digital only code that was a year or 2 ago, and now we're starting to see them put Fire Emblem games on like the GBA Advanced stuff. So I am
Mm.
excited to be able to play that, just because trying to buy a legit copy of that game is more money than I want it to be worth, to be
Yeah.
completely honest. So Nintendo, it feels like, is doing their part to kind of curb what collectors prices are. At least if you pay for this monthly subscription, you're at least going to be able to play the Fire Emblem games and not have to pay for a physical one, as much as you probably want it still.
Yeah, as someone who's trying to collect Super Nintendo games, like I applaud what Nintendo's doing because it is I am seeing a little bit of a drop in prices on Super Nintendo games now. And in turn I
Yeah.
would think probably Game Boy and Game Boy Advance because you can get them on the the Switch Online platform. So like for me, I'm like, yeah, do more of that. Like these super
Yeah.
expensive games, like put those on there, which they have some. I think Earthbound's on there, right, for Super Nintendo. Like that game's
Hmm.
super expensive. So like
Yeah.
anything to drop the price because it's been so overinflated for the past, I don't know, since the pandemic, really, is great in my eyes.
Yeah, Craig. What's like? since you're collecting these
Mhm.
games, what's like a price that you were like annoyed that you had to pay, but like were satisfied when you got it, like on a game, like any game, like
Yeah.
just to get a feel.
I don't know. It like some of the more expensive ones that I have, I got from just like random people through like Facebook Marketplace, and
Awesome.
those are always the most satisfying, right? Like there was a lady locally who was selling like a group of 8 of them, and I could care less of about any of them except for I saw zombies ate my neighbors buried in there. And I was like, yeah, I even some of them I already had, and I was like, I don't even care. Like, I'll just give you the money. To me, like that's what collecting is all about, more so than like going to like we have a retro store locally. Like I go there a lot, and that's where I get most of them. But it's way more satisfying going to like a yard sale or a Facebook Marketplace find. Just feels so much better.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, at that point it feels like a Pokemon pack almost, where you're just buying a pack
Hmm.
just to get get that one card that you're looking for.
Right. Exactly.
And then lastly for me is just kind of a bit of the story kind of going on with Cross the Spider-Verse as of the moment. After watching now the movie 3 times, just to self-brag,
Again? You went again?
I've seen it
Look
three
at that
times, yes.
flex. Look at that
Man.
flex.
Okay.
But the
Let's
movie is now
go.
being banned in certain countries because
Yeah.
it's a little cheeky, but Spider Gwen in her universe has a trans flag above her door, and I guess original moviegoers didn't watch it, and now that it's being pointed out, there are certain countries that are against trans in
Hmm.
general, that they're banning the movie as a result. There, I feel bad for those people because it's nice to have representation in these movies. It's just too
Exactly.
bad that some countries feel the need to, oppress and put their ideas onto people. So,
Yep.
Ha-
this
ha-
movie finds their way into the hands of people who want to see it and who want to be, supported anyway. So hopefully those people just don't have to jump through too many hoops.
Yeah.
Is my main concern there.
yeah, it's a shame to see stuff like that, and like it's to the point where like I'm not even surprised anymore when
Yeah.
I see that level of hatred and inability to understand us as humanity. So that's just I hate that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
But that's all the news I have this week.
Okay. I only have 3, and they're not anything like super important. But first one I have is we're getting the, I guess, first and only DLC for Callisto Protocol at the end of this month.
The final chapter.
June
Hey,
27th, right? I'll probably end up picking this up. Why not? June 27th for PlayStation, June 29th for everybody else. Just to kind of clarify, they have a 48-hour advance on that. Um, But when I was looking at it, I was like, are people going to want to go back to this game for this DLC, though? Because I feel like, I mean, it reviewed okay, but I don't think it was the hit they thought it was going to be, right?
no, I know a lot of people were like essentially utilizing it to get to the Dead Space remake as well. So
Mm-hmm.
like
Yep.
there's the problem.
Yeah,
Like
that was one of them.
so I don't know. How much is it?
I didn't. I was actually looking earlier. I didn't see a price. Um, I can try and look it up, but
I'm guessing $20 to $30.
yeah,
That's usually the price of a DLC that's not a full
20.
on
Wait,
portion.
mm, all I'm finding is like the season pass was $30.
Hmm.
So I don't know if maybe you have to buy that
That might be, yeah, that might be it. That
because
might
I'm
be
not
it.
seeing any option except buying the $30 season pass. So 30, and that
30.
depending on how long it is. That's another thing. It's like Overwatch. Like, all right, is this like a 1 hour experience? Is it a 6 hour experience? Like 30 is a lot.
Yeah. And like but it's the funny thing, it's all relative in horror games. We hint at it sometimes when we talk about it or when we review one that we do. Like the game for you, Craig, might have been 8 hours,
Yeah.
but like for me, it was like 10 because I'm a big baby. So like it's all about
Yep.
if you're one of those people who get scared easily, you might actually get your time versus money's worth out of it. I don't know. They left the ending a little open, so it could be interesting to see what the DLC is like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Agreed. Next one I have is we gotta pay. press F for respects here. Xbox is no longer making games for the Xbox One. We are officially done with last gen. Actually, I think that deserves applause more than anything because they should have done that a long time ago. Which kind of ties into something else I was thinking about. And this isn't a rant. This is just an honest question. But why the hell are we still making DVDs for movies? Because when I thought about that, I was like, all right, we phased out the Xbox One games. But when I go to like a Walmart or a Target, I still see DVD new releases and it's driving me nuts.
So
It's got,
apparently, and this is only because this is a YouTuber that I watch.
Okay.
His name is Films from Home. Films at Home. He
Okay.
reviews 4K discs and he shows sales. Surprisingly, there is a lot of sales for
Mm.
DVD and Blu-ray where
Right.
4K does not sell as much as people would think. So
I
it's because
I
mm,
get
DVD is
that, but
still
like I thought
profitable.
at this point, Blu-ray came out how many years ago? 15,
seems like forever. Yeah, at
right?
this point.
Probably 10 to 15 years. Like I think we should still have Blu-ray and 4K because I don't think the 4K base is there either. Like I buy exclusively 4K, but I know not everybody's doing that. But I
Yeah.
felt like at this point everybody should have something that plays Blu-ray movies. And why are we still buying DVDs unless there's a large portion of our population who just don't know any better, right? And are just like, "Oh, I always buy DVDs. I didn't know there was a better way to watch it." That's the only thing I can think of because if you look at the general population, the percentage of people who just have a DVD player now has to be like extremely small.
Yeah. Yeah, I
I don't
think
know. It's
so
just
too. Just be yeah, no. As far as I know, that's the main thing is because DVDs are cheaper to produce,
mm-hmm.
and they actually sell more than 4K. Like Blu-ray still is what sells the most. Those regular
Yeah,
Blu-ray combos, but I guess there's enough of the population that just gets DVDs,
that's
and
so
that's what
crazy.
it's surprising to
Yeah,
me too, considering like how quickly everybody jumped ship from VHS over to
Yeah,
DVD.
I know.
Um,
That's a
yep,
good
that
point.
yeah, like VHS the moment DVD came out died. You know, it was quite a quick death for
mm-hmm.
VHS. But since then, you know, we have all these disc formats, and they all seem to be thriving. Other than the newest one, the better one apparently.
Do you
Yeah,
think part of the reason would be that you can still buy a DVD and, for instance, put it in your PlayStation 5 and it's still going to play, as opposed to back in the day when you went to DVD, you had no way to play your VHSs anymore, right?
Yeah,
Like that
probably.
that
You
was
know,
that was
it's
over.
that's probably part
yeah,
of it.
Like you can still, I can still put, John Wick just came out. I could buy that on DVD and put it in my Xbox and it'll play. It'll look like crap, but it'll play.
yeah, yep.
So maybe that's why. I don't know. It just blows my
I
mind.
I don't know. I could tell you somebody who is contributing to the problem right here.
Are you
I
buying
just recently
DVDs?
I just recently purchased a DVD player for my parents because that is what they have the majority of. It could play Blu-ray and DVDs,
Okay.
but like I bought it and also like contributed some of the DVDs that my wife and I either have duplicates for, where we like had them like before we were dating and we brought them in together
Mm-hmm.
because hopefully my hope is that my parents do transition to Blu-ray slowly with the movies that they decide to buy, but they do have DVDs and some of them from even when I was back in, you know, 10th grade. So there's
Right.
people out there still watching him, and probably still transitioning to the Blu-ray era,
Yeah.
so to speak.
Yeah, I guess. That's just, it's,
That-
I don't know. Every time I think about it, it just blows my mind that DVD
Yeah,
still
no, you're right.
exists out there in the wild. And then the last thing I wanted to bring up, I asked Barry if he was going to bring this up, and he said no, so I will. We have to talk
Mhm.
about the One Piece trailer, the live action Netflix show. Oh my God, what a train wreck. I don't even like, I have no experience with the actual anime One Piece, but I know of it. And just watching that trailer, I was like, this cannot be for One Piece fans. This cannot be what they want, right?
I
Barry?
don't think so. I'll be like I'm not even a One Piece fan. Like I'll be
Right.
the first
Oh,
one to say I don't even
okay.
watch One Piece, but I did get an expert opinion from my brother who is a One
Okay.
Piece guy and was like, why are they he just tells me why are we doing this? And
Mm-hmm.
you know it's a fair point is to it's a cash grab. They're hoping that all the One Piece fans decide to get a Netflix subscription to try and support the show, even though it does not look good. It does not. I shouldn't say it doesn't look polished
Yeah.
at the moment with this. It could be good, but we just run into the same issue of trying to adapt anime into live action. Almost never seems to work out the way we want.
Right.
Cowboy Bebop,
Not
kind of
good.
a failure in a lot of in a
Yeah.
lot of areas there. So
Death Note.
and that was canceled. Yeah, Death Note, which apparently they're also working on doing again.
Oh,
From
really?
what I understand, yes.
I saw they're also
What?
working on a live action Avatar as well. The Last
Yeah,
Airbender.
I do have a little bit more faith in Avatar than anything else. I'll be completely honest.
Okay.
But that's where it's just like we continue to try and I'm gonna say this plainly, Americanize like anime
Mhm.
into these live action things, and that's just not how it works.
Yep.
The reason that stuff works is because it's really hard to do with CGI and live action people, and to bring it kind of full circle again. Imagine trying to do Spider-Verse with live action people, like
Yep.
Yeah.
I just don't think it works as well.
Mm-mm.
As a regular, Spider-Man movie. I think the Spider-Verse works because, or that, Miles Morales Spider-Man works because it's animated.
Yeah.
In a way. So
I agree.
that's just me personally.
Most definitely.
And I think that's the
Mhm.
same thing that we're running to here where, anime is in general weird, I'll admit. And One Piece is strange with superpowers that make people stretchy, and crazy swordsman like type stuff as well, where it's more about like that you can usually depict emotion with like color and things like that in anime, where in live action, they're just gonna get a grundled grizzly voice and they're gonna yell probably.
Yep.
Um,
Like
but
the
again,
Dragon Ball movie.
yeah, Dragon Ball, and that's
Oh, yeah. There you
another
go.
like, option there. That one was a failure. So
Yep.
it's like everything we've tried has not been like looking very good, and also with it too, like Ghost in the Shell. Like I didn't mind the movie, but that
Yeah.
one was also a colossal flop. So it's like it doesn't feel like we're hitting any of the parts of trying to Americanize anime as much as these people want to, but that's unfortunately what we try to do is we look at it and go, that's a cash grab, let's see if we can get them to do it. I do think Avatar The Last Airbender could probably prove a little bit more useful because that one's a
Okay.
bit more grounded, I want to say.
That being said, do you guys think we did find success in the one and only Detective Pikachu?
Yeah.
I like Detective Pikachu, but that was based off of a video game.
Yeah. True.
That was okay. Yeah, so technically, okay, yeah.
And
So
there
it
were
doesn't.
humans in it.
Yeah, and there were
as well.
humans and CGI.
There were humans in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I have no pull with One Piece, so like it could be good, but I don't know. The general consensus when I was kind of looking stuff up was most people are like, this looks awful. Why would you do this? But I guess if people tune in to watch, which let's be honest, most people probably will, at least 10,
to try
15
it,
minutes.
at least.
Yeah.
Just to try
Yeah.
it.
That's all they want, right? Because then they can be like, oh, look, we had 100 million people watch this first episode. That means it's a success or something.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
That's all I have.
All right, I got a couple of small things. The first one is, as we know, Spider-Man 2 is coming out on the 20th of October. Pre-order information recently released, and I wanted to not rant, but continue the ongoing talking point on this podcast, which is the collector's edition does not feature a physical disc.
Yep.
And I just love talking to you guys about how much we love physical disc. I'm just going to be honest. This is a selfish news.
Yep.
Does anybody
so
want my
it's
physical disc? Does anybody want my digital edition and I'll trade them for a physical?
No.
No.
I want physical. Yeah.
I
have to buy
guess
the
you
game
guys.
twice.
Yes, that's what that was actually going to be my next question, because I really actually do love talking to you guys about this. I usually text you guys about this, but are you getting the collector's edition and the physical? Are you getting the deluxe? Are you getting the regular? What are we doing? What are
I'm
we
not
doing?
buying either.
I'm getting
Barry?
both.
Barry always
I've got
buys
the email.
both.
I
He
have the email. I got the collector's edition pre-ordered.
makes
I'll
me
be honest,
so angry.
it was all on a whim. I'm gonna be completely honest with you.
Hey.
Like I went in there, I got in line, and I was like, oh, I can get it? Is it really this easy? And it was. So
All right, here's the thing. This is why we talk about this. I don't understand the thought process of buying the collector's edition is what, 250?
30,
230. Okay.
around 250 with tax.
Right. So you're paying $250, which is fine because like I think the statue is cool. Like I think it looks really cool. I'm not
Yeah.
buying it personally, but like I get it. But then to turn around and spend another 70 just because you want a physical disc at that point blows my mind. Like if I wanted that collector's edition, if I wanted that statue so bad, I would live with the fact that I have a digital code and I will go buy it 2 years from now when it's $9.99 used or something. You know what I mean?
And maybe that's what I should do.
You should.
I just didn't do that
Yeah.
with Horizon. That's
You're
all.
spending over $300.
But also, like, I
Yeah.
was able to sell like my
Okay.
digital version of Horizon to pay for
Okay.
to pay for it. Like that's what I mean.
That
That's what
makes
I'm talking
sense.
That's
to
a
you
good
guys
idea.
about. Yeah,
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
I
yeah.
was able to. My one
We're
buddy
just
is
being
going
nice.
to get. Yeah,
Mhm.
my one buddy's getting he has the digital PS5.
Okay.
So he'll get the physical, and then I'll just give him my digital code, and he'll give me the physical disc. That's
Okay.
what I did with Horizon. That's what I meant.
That makes sense.
I should have not said buying both, but
Right.
I'm going to pawn off the digital code.
I mean, you both have
That-
done it, Craig, with your Zeldas.
Yeah. And in all fairness, Barry's last 2 minutes of conversation has almost convinced me to do it. I'm actually
Oh
writing
my
down
God.
give to friend in exchange for physical. Like I like I like that idea. And the statue is what got me, and it's usually what gets me on these collector's editions now, which annoys the heck out of me because I can only justify $90 of this purchase in the statue, but I
Mhm.
want that statue because that one actually looks good because some haven't in recent collector's editions with other games, but that one looks freaking good. Like
Yeah.
it looks really, really, really good.
I just hope it's made out of like good materials as well. Like that's usually where the difference between the collector's editions that like America does and like the statues and stuff that I can buy from Japan. Like there is a big quality difference, and even in something like Horizon where I don't regret spending the money I did, but if you take that statue and then something that's probably around half the price of that without needing the game or anything like that with statues, some of the other ones that I buy, like the quality is much different. It's more resin and stuff like that rather than plastic, which I just hope this isn't all just plastic.
It probably will be.
Yeah, it probably is.
I just continuously tell myself that I don't have room. Right? I'm always like, I look at
There
these
you go.
collector editions, I'm like, where am I going to put this? Like I don't have space. I don't remember the last time I bought a big collector edition, honestly. It's been years.
Wait, you didn't get Horizon Forbidden West collectors, right?
No,
Okay.
he didn't. He hates Horizon.
I didn't even buy
That's
the
right.
game.
That's right.
Gamefly for the win, baby. Sponsor me.
Yeah.
Please.
Please save us all money.
But it'd be
If
something. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, I was gonna ask if there was like if he would get like if Dead Space had a collector's edition and you. Okay, I'm trying to find a collector's edition for Craig.
I didn't even buy.
I can't.
No, I didn't even buy the Final Fantasy VII one. No, it would have to be like something like spectacular would have to pop up for me to consider it, because I just see like the price tag on these things are so insane anymore.
They are.
There was I don't remember if you remember the game Lord of the Rings War of the North came out like 360 PS3 era. And that one came with like it was like this big, and it was Gimli being held by a like an ogre, like a resin statue. And I bought that, and that with the game was like $100.
Yeah, it's different.
And now it's like $200, $350 sometimes for these collector's editions. I'm like, there's no way. No way. I just don't like, it's going to sit somewhere behind me here, and I'm going to have to dust it, and I'm going to hate my life every time I dust it. So why do I need it?
Fair enough.
but I get like I don't hate on people who buy it. I just don't. I've talked myself out of those purchases anymore.
Smarter man than we are. It sounds like.
Start smarter man. Yeah, because like
Yeah.
to be honest, after this recording, I might buy it.
Oh my god,
The
Can you still
collectors.
get
I
it?
might.
it might be up.
Probably
Still.
not. Probably not. I looked at it yesterday and I was like, nope. If it's meant to be, you'll try like tomorrow or the next day and it'll be available. Because I couldn't believe, like you, Barry, I couldn't believe that it was just like it was, pick me, no lines, no,
Yeah.
trying to wait for a specific time for it to like become available again. I couldn't believe it.
So I did have to wait. Like
Oh,
I
okay,
was
okay.
just I was just reminded, and I knew it was from PlayStation Direct. And to be fair to them, they have a good pre-ordering system.
Yep.
If
They
the site's
do.
busy, they put you in a queue. They tell you how long. It said like, oh, it's gonna be a couple hours. So I closed my phone and I was like, nah, I'm not waiting a couple hours. I don't care anymore. I
Mhm.
randomly opened my phone. It probably about 15 minutes later, and the site was up. I could scroll through it. I could add it to cart, and there was like a good 30-second internal debate on whether or not I should buy it or not. But I am the Miles Morales freak as of the moment. So I guess even though he's a little
Correct.
tiny portion of this statue, like I have to admit, I'm not looking to resell it, but Marvel stuff resells for a crap ton.
Mhm.
I could probably sell this statue for $300, and
Probably.
if I ever wanted to, it's not my goal to. Let me make that clear. I don't like to be the person who buys stuff and resells it, but
Right.
Yeah.
Marvel fanboys are crazier than Kingdom Hearts fanboys.
True.
Just an opinion.
Truth.
Yeah.
I'm not buying the chair.
Buy the chair.
Not buying the chair.
I
I'll
almost-
trade the chair for the statue.
I almost bought the Diablo Secret Lab chair that was like $500. So I guess they still get me some
Ooh.
places, you know.
Yeah,
But I didn't.
it's all about willpower. It's all about
Yeah.
willpower, rationale, and stuff
I
like
have
that.
none.
You know what I mean?
I have none.
I also tell myself that my favorite hobby is video games, and I live, eat, and breathe it. I play it, and then I also do an extracurricular Sunday podcast that I love because of video games.
Mhm.
So like that's what that's why I end up buying these. Is I'm like, well, you like it a lot,
Well,
a
and
lot, a
it's
lot.
that stupid steelbook too. The stupid
gotta-
steelbook.
gotta have those
Only in the
steelbooks.
collector's edition.
Everybody
Yeah.
loves steelbooks now.
Yeah, they do.
Like
For real.
it's the
Everyone
biggest
loves
thing.
steelbooks.
I guess like if I step back and look at it, like you guys are spending a lot and I'm not on those, but like I'll drop like the other day, I just no thought dropped $30 on a complete like box copy of Barkley Shut Up and Jam for Super Nintendo. So like that stuff adds up as well. Where I'm just like,
Mm.
oh, $30. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't even think about it. And then that, if that's like an every weekend thing for me, like it adds up.
Yeah.
The moral of the story is, listeners and watchers, do what you love.
Yeah, buy what
do
you want.
what you love.
Within reason.
Yeah.
Within
Don't
reason.
send yourself into debt. Don't
Right.
cause your credit
Yes.
card issues and stuff if you can't pay for it.
Exactly.
The other thing I had was more of a question. It was just if any of you guys saw something from the Ubisoft or Capcom showcases, because I know we filmed before the Capcom one and the Ubisoft one, right? Did you see anything you liked? Besides Skull and Bones having an open beta on August 25th through 28th, did you guys see anything that you absolutely loved?
Yes.
So
Was it?
What?
I was just.
What was it?
Was it Avatar?
No. That looks terrible. No, the only thing that caught my eye was surprisingly was the Assassin's Creed in VR.
Yeah.
I was like,
yeah.
you know what? Like that could be kind of fun. Like
Yeah,
I might
motion
actually buy
sickness.
that for the Oculus.
That motion sickness though. Oh
Motion
boy.
Oh, I know. But like part of me is just like, that could be very cool, assassinating people
That could
in
be.
VR.
Craig remembers the whole climbing for me in Population 1.
Yeah, you were
Oh,
so
boy.
sick.
That would be every time you start climbing and have to pull yourself up
Yep.
to a ledge in Assassin's Creed.
Yep.
For me, I like having a better idea of what Pragmata is. That
Yeah.
delay
Yeah.
is huge. It is a huge
That is.
delay. But
That is.
I am a lot more interested in what Pragmata is now that I have an idea that you're playing as this, for a lack of a better term, Dead Space type character in a suit with a girl looks like, hanging on your back and stuff like that. And she seems to have special powers too. that getting delayed that much is kind of unheard of.
Yeah,
But
that
I
is.
guess maybe what they're trying to do is be safe, and if they get it ready earlier, they can
Yeah.
have it out by 2024. But to put like a question mark is like unheard of.
They're gonna shadow
Yeah.
drop it, is what they're gonna
Yeah.
do. It's gonna sneak
we'll
up on
see.
us. They're gonna be like, it's out next week.
Hey, it worked for Hi-Fi Rush.
Yeah.
I was sad, Barry. That's actually the one I was going to mention too. I was very sad to see that because I remember Pragmata and being very interested in the original stuff they showed us. But we got a lot of stuff to play till they drop it. So
Yeah. I do have
I
higher
also
hopes
like
for
the
Mirage too.
Yeah, Mirage looks good.
Gameplay
old
for Mirage
school.
looks good.
Back to the basics. Let's figure out again why we are Assassin's Creed fans in general.
Oh, I'm not.
Like that's
but I still want to play it.
Yes,
Dude,
there we go.
Now.
Huh? Yeah.
And then for me also Path of the Goddess, just more of that looked great. That game looks so colorful. I'm a big color guy in terms of like
Huge
color and music.
Guy. Huge color guy.
Huge. Color and music, man. Color and music will get me to play games even I semi hate if they can get me with both of those things. So that was also what I wanted to throw out there as excitement. Other than that, they were just showcases.
Yeah, nothing too
whatever.
new.
That's
But
it
then
for me.
let's go ahead and talk about the games we got to play.
Yeah.
I imagine we've all either finished or played the Final Fantasy 16 demo.
Finished.
Let's
it.
go.
Did I mention how last week, or I know I texted you guys about it? Did we talk about how?
How what?
Hoa, sorry, Hoa.
Hoa. I did. I told you both to play it last week.
Yeah, and I played it.
Yeah, but you didn't
Okay.
talk about it yet. You
Okay,
did
well,
text
that's-
me and say you played it.
Yes. Okay. So I have that one as well.
Mhm.
Other than that, though, I haven't played many other games this week. This was a kind of a calm before the Final Fantasy 16 storm.
It really is.
Let's go.
I did finish the Final Fantasy demo. I can't remember if I talked about it before, but I started playing more Hypnospace Outlaw on the PC. And then, as you both all know, my quest to learn Japanese is like 2 years deep at this point. I went ahead and bought the Learn Japanese to Survive on Steam, and I started playing that as well.
I can't wait to hear about that.
Yeah.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
So I also finished the demo for Final Fantasy 16. Because of the Capcom showcase, I also tried the Ghost Trick demo. They spent like 25 minutes on that. And then I don't know if I'm embarrassed or not because I should be doing other things with it, but I played Fuga 2 Melodies of Steel.
Oh, God.
Started that on
the
Game
furry
Pass.
game.
The furry game.
Yeah.
And I don't know how I feel about like me choosing to do that. So
it's got an interesting cover art.
It does.
It caught my eye and I was like, oh, that looks interesting. And I looked into it more and I went, no, never mind.
But what about Zelda? Are you farther in Zelda?
How many hours?
110.
Oh my God.
And I am done with the fourth temple.
I just finished the game.
I just beat I just beat the fourth temple literally yesterday.
Oh my God.
And
are you going to beat it before Final Fantasy comes out?
I have decided
no, he won't.
And accepted that I will not, but I am going to enjoy this game as I power through Final Fantasy 16. I do have some summer left. And I will finish this game before the rush of the fall, is what I have decided and accepted.
Okay.
I'm okay with it.
I mean, I'm still burning majority of my time in Yakuza, so like I feel your pain. I'm just like, I'm enjoying these games so much that like I don't care that, there's the Yakuza 0. I think there's like 14 chapters. I'm on chapter 8 and I'm at like 45 hours. I'm just having a blast. You know what I mean? Like I'm doing all the side stuff. It's great.
Do what you love.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll talk about. So I guess I'll talk about Hoa.
Yeah.
Before getting into it, Craig's absolutely right. I really liked Hoa. It is a like fun kickback. Music is good.
It's real good.
Type game. Everything was really nice, and I was having a lot of fun
Till the end.
until the end, where and the end is not that it's not fun. I do like
Right.
the twist that it puts onto it. It doesn't, I guess, what I should be saying is, like, it didn't make the game like any worse for me, but the way they moved the camera made me sick. Um, I have
It
to
hurts your
like
brain.
Yes, I have to like tilt my head, and my brain needs to. I'm literally hanging on my couch upside down, or the controller's upside down, and I'm
Yep.
playing
Love
it.
it.
With all these different things, trying to get through the one section, the very last section of the game, is where like, oh, these puzzles were easy, and they're kind of still easy, but your brain needs to be able to handle.
Yep. Everything
You know,
backwards and upside
ev-
down.
everything backwards, and it's not even the backwards portion. It's like when you're 75 degrees tilted in the Dutch angle,
Yep.
and I now need to hold the analog stick sideways in order to go forward. If I hold it down, I'm jumping. It's all over the place. But
Mhm.
as as you mentioned, Craig, the music's really good, and I enjoyed my time with Hoa. Like, even like after I was done with it, my brain could calm down, and I was like, okay, it is. Just know, like, it's a fun, relaxing game, and then at the end, your brain has to like suddenly go into overdrive.
Yep.
my my brain was like, buddy, we were relaxing, we were chilling, and now you're throwing like trigonometry at me.
Yep.
I was doing algebra, and now I'm on trig. So
Oh my god.
We were just painting circles, and now you want us to go into advanced math. What are we doing?
yeah, exactly. It's exactly how I felt. But I did enjoy the simple like jumping around, collecting of stuff, just because that's not most games now require you to do 7 different things. This game, has a couple little mechanics that you learn and kind of kind of go with. The platforming is pretty reliable. There are some points that I didn't understand where like I would jump up in the air, but I wouldn't move side to side. Like you would just jump and then
Mhm.
not go anywhere, even though I was tilting it. But it almost never cost me or frustrated me to the point of me quitting.
Right.
Hoa,
Hoa.
Oh.
Great game. Great game.
starting
It's a nice-
Planet of
Hoa.
Lana this week as well.
Okay, that's a good one too.
All right.
What's
But
next?
I was gonna say, do we want to just get into Final Fantasy 16, or do we?
I think so.
Okay, Final
Yeah, let's
Fantasy
do it.
16 demo.
Let's do it. Let's do
A lot of hype around this game and the internet
Yep.
as well.
Yep.
I was more, and I guess I'll split it into 2 parts: the challenge and then the demo portion.
Sure.
The demo portion I was a little lukewarm on. I do think the story is pretty good. Excuse me, you can definitely tell this is very Game of Thrones inspired. It's like they were developing this game and they were like, you know what, Game of Thrones would be a good option here. And it's very clear that you have a kid whose mother doesn't like him because he's not blessed by the gods, and then the one that's blessed by the gods is always sick. And you gotta, the older brother that's not sick has to protect the brother blessed by the gods without a human power, and it has to protect him as his shield. Simple stuff like
Standard
that.
stuff. Standard
Yep.
stuff.
Yeah, standard
Mhm.
stuff. The reason I was more lukewarm on it is because I did think like the combat was a little bit bland, just because it is very easy and simple in the beginning. But then when you did the icon challenge, where you get to start with more of the abilities of some of the other icons, the combat is so much more fun once you learn that. So the only thing going into Final Fantasy 16 that kind of worries me is that the combat may be a little bit bland to start off with, but it eventually gets, it eventually will eventually get to where I want it to go, with like the fun, rapid pace, Devil May Cry sort of stuff going on.
Right.
Yeah.
A
Pacing.
yeah, it looks to be it was a very good demo in my eyes, just because it made me all the more excited for that. And that ending, man, it feels like that ending was meant to be part of like the full game, not the demo.
Yeah.
Oh my god, yeah.
That's how I felt, and it was like, okay, like we're going for shock value. I like it. I'll do it.
Mm-hmm. There's
I
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say that I just wanted you guys to know. I don't know where I saw it, but like when they were developing the game, they were watching Game of Thrones. Like they were actually, it was like a company decision to have them watch at least the first couple of seasons of Game of Thrones while they were creating this in order to get the feel that they were looking for. And it was because they saw the success of how Game of Thrones was able to captivate audiences and literally make Sunday important again, like Sopranos did, and like other shows like that. So like that was actively part of the process, the creation process there, which is why we saw like literally a Ned Stark. We saw like a sickly like version of, I don't know if you would call that Arya or
Yeah.
yeah, a brand. Thank you. I'm forgetting the Stark children. So like that's why we literally saw like a representation of like every
Actually
single
surprised I
person.
remember that.
Yeah, you remember the most important character in all of Game of Thrones there.
Huh.
but we had a Cersei. The mom was essentially Cersei, who just doesn't care about one of her kids, as opposed to the like, you know, because that was Cersei's deal. She cared about her kids the most. So that's why we saw like a representation the way we did there. Um, but like I liked it. I was on board, but I also have read and watched Game of Thrones in its entirety. So like this is kind of my jam, you know, like in terms of what you're able to present. I know Craig and I had some qualms or hesitancies about the time period and setting because that's not our favorite Final Fantasy like kind of setting. But like, I don't know, they did it for me in this. And I'm glad that the abilities do open up because like I was just like, oh, am I just supposed to shoot fire for 65 hours? And you know,
Yeah.
like, am I just supposed to do that? So I'm glad that that opened up as well. Those are my initial thoughts. Craig, I'm sorry to interrupt you there.
No, you're good. There's a couple things that like I think the demo's good. There's a couple things that make me nervous about the game calling itself Final Fantasy. One being that you're only ever going to control one character. That's it. Like kind of it's like, are we really a Final Fantasy game anymore? And like I was like doing some digging and they were saying that like, oh well, you will have different people that will help you out, but the majority, like the idea of this game is you are playing as one person and telling their story. I believe they said it's like 30 hours to beat the game, so it's not like a typical like 80-hour Final Fantasy game. The other thing that again I had to do some digging, the icon battle right in the demo where you're fighting and you're like flying along and shooting the fireballs. When I did some digging, I did find, you know, they were saying that like, oh, there's going to be different things you do in each battle, right? It's not always just going to be like I mean, that one was literally just an on rail shooter.
Yeah.
Where you're just like spamming the circle button and dodging.
Yeah.
That kind of makes me nervous a little bit. Like I like the idea of what they're going for. And if they can change each one to make each one feel different, then I'm okay with that. But in my mind, like, is this where we're going to get away from like those typical Final Fantasy boss battles that we're used to, right? And we're just going to go to these like QTE scripted events. I don't know how I feel about that in a Final Fantasy game. It does feel kind of more like a Devil May Cry than a Final Fantasy, except for the extremely overly long intro putting me to sleep. And I was like, there's the Final Fantasy. There's Final Fantasy.
There we
There's all
go.
that talking you love so much.
I immediately went back
to
I flashed back to Final Fantasy 12 in that intro, and I was just like, ugh.
Oh my god.
That intro is rough. But yeah, I'm still excited to play it, but I was after playing, I'm like, I don't know if this is going to be like a Final Fantasy game for me, or if this is just like an action game that they slapped the Final Fantasy logo on. I don't know. It makes me a little nervous that they're just not completely, but getting away from a lot of what Final Fantasy is at this point.
You bring up a great point because like this could easily just be another game without the Final Fantasy tag on it.
Mm-hmm.
And like we all know that every Final Fantasy is different anyway, so you don't have to play them in order or anything like that. It's always a new story, but you know the progression, you know, from turn-based to like 12 did something different where like you were walking and like there was auto battling, but you had prompts you can do. And then, you know, obviously Lightning had a specific like which Final Fantasy was that? Was that 13?
13.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
13 or 13.3.
Yeah.
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 Lightning's in both.
Yeah, that had a great battle system. I think I liked it. It was entertaining enough. I know
Hmm.
that there's things people pick at for 13, but like I don't think you could really do with the battle system. Um, and like there's a progression in what they keep trying to do to change the game and make it more
Hmm.
exciting. Meanwhile, half of us we're just okay with playing 8 over again or 7 over again or 9 over again or
Yep.
whatever. So like I think you bring up a good point. Um, it is a main fantasy title, in a Final Fantasy title. It's not an inspired by or a side story or anything like that. So slapping 16 on this and what we're going to get is going to be interesting. I'm going to play the heck out of it from start to finish because I'm a Square Enix person back when they were Square Soft.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So, but I don't know. Like you bring up something that I didn't think about, I think is what I should have said. It to say it in one sentence. You know what I mean?
I think like their thought process I can easily follow because we're not our age, like we're not the general gaming public. So I get that they shift their focus from like, you know what, people don't really like turn-based games as much as we used to. So you do have to make that progression. But I think what they did with Final Fantasy VII Remake is the perfect solution. Like that's it. That's how you combine turn-based Final Fantasy that we know and make it action enough that the new crowd who didn't grow up with that will still have a good time. I just think they may have gone too far in the action direction with this one. I just don't know why they didn't stick with what the Final Fantasy VII remake did.
It
That's why I'm
almost
like,
feels more like Kingdom Hearts, like
yeah,
combat.
yeah,
Yeah.
And I do hope like certain things like the QTEs were far too easy.
yeah,
Like they gave you way too
Oh
much
my
time.
god, yeah.
I would like some sort of like God of War type challenge with these
yeah,
ones where like who cares if I fail? It quickly reboots. This is the PS5, so there's
yep,
really no load times, quote unquote. So, if I fail a QTE that's too quick, just let me restart and I'll eventually get it. Like I really wish that they weren't afraid to
yeah,
like make those things a little bit harder cuz it's a good like 5 seconds of paused action to like it,
Yeah.
they give you enough time to look at the controller, find the R1 button,
yep,
look back
Yeah.
up, still have enough time to go pick up the pizza that you just ordered 2 minutes ago, drive
uh-huh.
back 15 minutes later to go get your pizza and drive back, and then press R1 to dodge.
Yep,
That's
You're
how
right.
much time they give you.
Yeah,
And that's no joke.
yeah.
Just try it. Just try it.
It's harder. It's harder to do a QTE sequence in the quarry or Until Dawn.
yep.
It's harder to respond and react in that than it is in
Well, they
how much
want you
time
to
they gave.
they want you to fail in those games.
Oh yeah, well that does
I just
progress.
want something a little bit harder. Just
I
something with a
agree.
little
It
challenge.
it
More
did
than one
feel
button.
it did feel the game itself felt easy to
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
I was just like, it feels like a game that like I could potentially play my whole way through and never have to reload because I died. Like that's how I feel. I'm like, oh man,
Yeah.
this game is going to be like a breeze. And if I'm not feeling the story, am I going to get bored because the gameplay is so easy and the story I don't really care about? That might make
Yeah.
me stop playing it at that point.
More
Um,
adult like too.
yeah,
They
yeah, it was
literally say the
weird,
Yeah.
F. They literally say
weird.
the F word like 2 minutes in, and then they
Yep,
called somebody a cock, and it's
they
like,
did.
all right,
Yeah,
let's.
which
Yeah,
is
you're like,
weird
all
for a
right.
Final Fantasy game.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
yeah, but that's how we know like it's inspired by Game of
Right,
Thrones. Like
right.
everybody's cursing and calling each other cocks, and
Yep.
Yeah.
there's more women straddling men
Yeah,
in
Yes, yeah, the Titan.
so
Yeah,
many.
in this
yeah,
game
like the
than
guy.
like
Yep. Yep. That threw me
Yeah,
off. Like there was two instances
yeah,
of women doing that in the
yes.
first like 10 minutes. And I was
Yeah,
like, wait a
the guy who becomes the Titan,
Yep.
like that one scene where he was holding her up against the wall, and I was like, are they gonna like pan away? Or is like what's going on here,
Yep.
man?
Yep.
Like
Yep.
playing this in my
Definitely
living room.
definitely Game of Thrones inspired. And also covering the young child in blood. I was
Yeah.
like, okay,
yeah,
okay. I
yeah.
get the more mature themes they're going with, but again, Final Fantasy has always not been that. So
It
it's like
hasn't.
everything from in this game in my mind is like they're trying to distance themselves from older Final Fantasy. Be like, this
He's
is the
like
new
the
Final Fantasy.
Yeah, what
Which
if
is the
it's like
wrong
Final
thing.
Fantasy Junior?
Yeah,
What
it's
if
the
there's a
wrong
Final
thing.
Fantasy Junior
Yeah.
now? And that's the one for kids.
Yeah, I don't know. I still think the game's going to be good. Like, I
Yeah.
don't
Oh
hate
yeah.
it,
Yeah.
but like it's just weird choices that they're making for sure.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
weird.
Most definitely.
And I get like that they're and it's again it's much to Game of Thrones where it's like women were using their sexuality as their
Right.
power. And like these
Yeah.
two obviously know what they're doing, and it's like okay, like it's hard not to draw on that.
Mm-hmm.
I just have to hope that Final Fantasy 16 doesn't, drop the finale as hard as Game of Thrones did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Oh
really
my
the only
god.
thing we have to worry about. So, but we'll see. I
Yeah. Yeah.
I have high
It,
hopes.
you.
I do.
Me too. Usually in Final Fantasy, you wait like 80 hours for like the main character and the love interest to even just say they like each other, and they just
Hold
pounded
hands.
us in the
Yeah,
and
they
then they just
did.
hand
So
holding button.
So the real question then is they said 30 hours for the main story. If you do side missions, they said double that. So you're looking at 60 hours if you were to 100% it, which I don't think any of us will do. Maybe. So the real question is this game comes out when? Friday?
Thursday.
Thursday?
Thursday.
Okay.
22nd.
So put it out here from all three of us. How long is it going to take us to get through this game day wise? Not hours. Like if you start playing Thursday, when are you going to have it done? Do you think a week, 2 weeks, less than a week? If we're
I'm
looking at
hoping
30 to 60 hours,
I'm thinking 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Okay.
Yeah.
a week and a half for me.
Okay.
And
With
I
a
could
12-hour session.
I was gonna say if it really gets me, I will probably beat it in half a week. I will
You'll have it done by next
I'll,
week when we record.
I will probably have
Yeah.
it done by Wednesday if the game is as good as it could be. I guess.
It's gonna come out Thursday. We're gonna get on here to record on Sundays. Barrett's gonna be like, I'm done.
Yeah.
I already finished it.
Yeah. I'm done.
Level
Yeah.
one, level 100. I've done everything.
Level 100.
Oh my god. I don't know. I think like realistically, I would say probably 2 weeks for me. But then in the back of my mind, I'm like, Yakuza's still floating there. So I think I'll say 3 weeks to be safe. I think I'll be the last one to finish it because I still have Diablo.
Okay.
Diablo's still standing there too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it is.
Diablo is.
Too many games.
Too many
Too many
games.
games.
Too
Too many cooks.
many.
Too many. Yeah.
That's I was gonna say that's it for my games this week.
Okay.
If you guys want to start talking about what you guys play.
Yeah. All right. So Hypnospace Outlaw. I want to throw this one out there. Have either of you played this game?
No.
No.
Okay. So it is on Game Pass. I will preface this by saying if you're going to play it on Game Pass, please play it on PC. Don't play it on console.
Heard.
If you don't know what the game is, so basically what this is you imagine yourselves back in the late 90s, early 2000s on your computer, right? Like Windows 98 type style. So when you're playing this game and you turn it on, it's going to make your monitor look like an old old computer. So that's why I'm saying don't play it on console because it kind of ruins the illusion a little bit.
Okay.
But the game is basically there is I don't know the best way to put it. If you think back to the days when people made their own websites on like GeoCities, if you remember GeoCities, it's like that. Your job is to go through people's websites and look for banned content, whether it's like trademarked photos, illegal contraband, all that kind of stuff. You're like digging through the internet and looking through all these things and trying to report these people. And the more you do that, you get money and you can spend money on different things. There's a story in there as well. But it's such a fun game just to kind of mess around with and kind of remind yourself of like how it used to be. Like when you first start the game, it runs like the little tutorial, like on your desktop. It'll be like double click on this, and this tutorial is hilarious. Like the video you watch is like that super awful like 240p video with the crappy sound. Oh, it's so good, so good. So yeah, like that one I enjoy like going back and playing that every so often and like reading these websites that people made are just hilarious. And just digging through and like, oh, this one's selling like firearms on their GeoCities website or something like that, or drugs. But yeah, it's a great game. Definitely play it on PC if you can. I honestly think it would run on just about any PC, really. You shouldn't have any issues, I wouldn't think. The other one, learn Japanese to survive. We can talk about that one.
Let's talk
So, like I
Japanese.
said, I am over 2 years into Duolingo in Japanese, and the problem I was having is like I know a lot of words and phrases in Japanese, but when you really break down trying to read Japanese, Duolingo does not teach you the symbols
Yeah.
at all. They just don't. Like they go with, this is how you say where's the bathroom, or where's the hotel. Like I can do that, but I didn't like I want to be able to read. So I had heard of this before, Learn Japanese to Survive. It's like $20 on Steam, and you can get all three. There's three different ones because there's three different versions of symbols in Japanese. So I started with the first one, the most basic one. There's like 44 characters to learn. What works for me is they'll start you with like it's all presented in an RPG format. You think like Super Nintendo era RPG. So you'll
Love it.
go back, you go to the town and they're like, all right, we're going to teach you 5 symbols. They're going to start you off at the very beginning with the symbols for A, E, I, O, and U, your vowels. Easy, right? So the first thing they're going to tell you is like, get a notebook, get a pen. I feel like I'm in school, and it'll be like, all right, this is the symbol for A, write it like 4 times. I'm like, okay. So if like this plays on camera, if you look at my thing, I have like all these symbols going here as I'm learning. It's
Okay.
kind of hard to see,
Yeah.
but like I'm
All
trying
right.
to do that. And then once you're done with the lesson, you'll do a short little quiz, and then you'll do like the RPG story. So you go out, and your battles and your boss battles are going to be these symbols. And in order to attack, you have to say what that symbol is. And if you pick the wrong one, you do 0 damage. Pretty simple, right? But the gamifying of it makes it, in my mind, like it sticks in my head easier now. So now I'm
Okay.
looking at like, all right, very first one was just the 5, easy. All right, cool. I go back to the town, and I'm like, all right, now like once you get away from those vowels, Japanese starts breaking down into like we don't do letters, we do sounds. So
Yes.
like, all right, now we're doing ka, ki, ko, and then like they gave me 5 more, and I'm like, okay. And then they're like, all right, now in Japanese, if you add 2 symbols over those symbols that you just learned, it changes from a K sound to a hard G sound. So now I learned 5 more. Now go back out and do more battles. And now you have those 10 that you just learned plus those initial 5 vowels in your like attack queue, and you have to pick the
Okay.
right one. It's so simple, and it's like seems like, yeah, somebody should have thought of this a long time ago. But any our generation, I feel like anytime you can gamify something, we're gonna like latch onto it a lot better than
Yeah.
somebody like in a classroom trying to teach me these. So um I think it's looking at like 10 to 20 hours to beat this game, and you should have like those 44 characters down by the end of it.
Hmm.
And if once I get to that point, I can start actually reading Japanese and be like, okay, now I can read it. I may not know, like I can sound it out and be like, all right, that's this word. Maybe I don't know what that word is yet, but that's what Duolingo's for. So I feel like combining the two is going to get me a lot faster than it would have otherwise. I'm trying to go to Japan, and I don't want to go over there not knowing how to carry on a conversation or even read things over there.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's these type of games for other languages. I'm assuming there probably should be.
That was my
I
question.
I imagine for the most part, like most other languages use alphabet that's very similar to like
Right.
what the United States teaches.
Mhm.
Japan is different. China is different.
Right.
I know Korean is
Ko-
different, and on top
Korean's
of that,
different. Yep.
like
Um,
Russian is also different. Like they don't use the regular alphabet, I guess,
Right.
that other civilizations use. And even with like, and you guys know me, like with Spanish, it's all the same. You just add tildes
Right.
and other stuff to the
yeah.
top of it. So it's it's different for those languages. That would make sense that at least there's one for Japanese, because as well with them, they have older languages like kanji that is also a little bit
Yes.
different, difficult to read.
Which
So
is the third game. Like that's they're like you learn these 2, and then you can go to that third one if you really want to learn like the
kanji is
older
apparently
language.
kanji is
Yeah, it's
apparently the
weird.
most difficult.
Right.
Interesting.
Because the whole reason I bought it was because I was trying to figure out like, all right, what's the next step besides just Duolingo? Like Duolingo is great. I do it every day, but like, how do I like make the jump to actually like learning a language instead of just these small phrases? And I even was like trying to figure out like, man, there's got to be a way that I could connect with someone in Japan and just like be able to talk to somebody. Haven't found that yet,
Yeah.
but I'm sure there's something out there where
Hmm.
I could connect. And I feel like that would I would learn even faster that way. But that being said, like there's so many more options to learn languages than there ever has been. And in my opinion, like I think it's a good idea for everybody to have at least 2 languages. Like my brain's old at this point, so it's going to be a lot harder than it would have been if I would have done this when I was 20, or 15.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's going to take me a lot longer, but like I really want to be able to do it. I want to be able to carry on a full conversation with somebody or read a Japanese menu and be like, oh, I know what all of that says. That'd be pretty cool. Will I get there? We'll see. But I'm trying to put in all the effort that I can.
I respect
yeah,
that.
just definitely make sure, like, if I can tell you one other thing, like, it's also about customs and body language in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
And look, I'll be the first one to admit I've never been to Japan. I just watch a lot of videos about people
Yeah.
going to Japan.
Yep.
Because I dream about also one day going to Japan. So it's
Right.
like I may not speak the language, but I know like all of the proper, body language and stuff that
Mhm.
you do when talking to someone who's older and things like that. So if they spoke Spanish, I could go to Japan right now. That's just the case.
And also, I mean, in all honesty, somebody going over to Japan now, like a majority of the population in Japan speaks English. There's English all over the place in Japan, so you can get by without knowing. It was just like a personal goal of mine to be like, I want to go there, but I want to go there knowing that language.
Yeah.
At
Yeah, and
least
experiencing it.
Yeah, for the most part.
Yeah, authentically. Like that
Right.
changes the experience for you in a positive way, most definitely,
Mhm. But yeah, that's what I played this week.
All right, real quick, I'll go through my 2 other games. I'll
Sure.
start with the Ghost Trick demo. Ghost Trick was shown at the Capcom Showcase this past week, and I was intrigued by the simplicity of it. It's essentially it's kind of modeled more after an older game, like on an older system. I would say maybe even like as early as Super Nintendos and Segas and such like that. But essentially, you play a gentleman who gets killed in the beginning of the game, and he becomes a ghost. And the idea is before the night is over, he has to find out who killed him. So when he comes to in his spiritual form, he sees the person who killed him, and he also sees a woman who is about to be killed by said man. So what it is essentially is utilizing your ghost form to manipulate objects in the environment that you can see to try to save, well, this first part, save this woman's life so that you can not only save her life, but you can also see who the government works for and so on and so forth. So it was an interesting enough concept for me to download the demo. And as I played through it, it's like maybe a hour and a half demo. You do a specific portion with that woman, and then you later you make your way to different areas by going through phone lines because that's one of your ghostly powers. And you start to explore more and more about why you're dead and who is in charge of killing you or who called the hit. What I can say about it is it does come out later this month. I would be excited to purchase it if it was like maybe 15 or 20. I actually don't remember what the price is. The soundtrack is amazing. The soundtrack is amazing. It reminded me of what they keep trying to do with retro games now, where they create one that looks like it and they bring back what we would hear in the 90s / early 2000s with like a really good game soundtrack. And Eastward, I think, is like the last game that I played that really hammers that type of musical feel home. But it's pretty cool. It's got an interesting cast of characters. It doesn't take itself seriously. The main guy looks like Elvis if he was blonde.
Okay.
He also kind of looks like a cross between that. Oh, there was a cartoon show on.
Was
Oh my
this a
God, I can't
DS
remember.
game?
I just saw that it had like a DS
It
logo
was.
next to. Okay.
And it's
It
also
was.
$30. If you're wondering, $30.
It's 30. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was a DS game. It's done by the Ace Attorney, the people who do Ace Attorney,
Sure.
or at least
Art
the
style is
gentleman.
very familiar. That's
Yeah.
where I'm seeing it from. Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought it was great. They did enough in the Capcom showcase for me to try it. I don't know if I'll 30 buck it. If
Right.
Final Fantasy wasn't coming out, I would probably do it. And if I didn't have like other games I'm trying to beat, but
Tears of the Kingdom.
it's definitely something. Tears of the Kingdom. Tears of the Kingdom.
Fair.
Yeah, but it's definitely something to keep on your radar. The other one is the furry game. Uh, Fuga 2,
Yep.
Melodies of Steel, which apparently takes place a year after the first one in the game, at least. As I was playing
Which is
this game, I
common
don't.
knowledge.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Both are on Game Pass too, I saw.
I I, I'm going to tell you two something. I started playing this game and I thought to myself, why did I not just play Advance Wars? Because essentially, what this game is, it's not fully Advance Wars, but you play a group of children, like 10 to 12 children. They're stuck in a tank, like just a perpetually moving tank. And it's a combination of building your rapport with the other children, upgrading the tank, and utilizing specific weaknesses of other weaponry that you fight in order to progress the story. The story is a Craig snooze fest. It's a lot of text.
Yes.
I find myself pressing a lot of A to get past that on Xbox. Um, but I did like the battle system because essentially you have machine guns which are coated in blue, you have grenade launchers which are coated in yellow, and you have like cannons which are coated in red. And whatever you fight has a weakness to certain things. And when you hit it with its weakness, you delay the enemy from attacking. So it's got that type of style to it. As far as the traversal, it's a linear path with certain parts that you can actually deviate from to get better items, but it's got that. And I don't know if this is Advanced Wars that does it, but it's got that classic like map at the top with the boxes, and your tank just moves, and you could kind of go up or down at only certain parts, but it essentially takes you through the story itself with you having to do little there. Um, the story is whatever. It's a bunch of kids. They're in a wartime version of their own world, and they don't like war like most people don't. So they're trying to use the tank in order to create peace, which is what they did in the first one. Um, the story's not didn't grab me the most. I kind of played it in the route that we talk about occasionally, actually more than occasionally on this podcast, where I needed something that wasn't intense. I just needed something that wasn't intense.
Mhm.
And I will tell you two gentlemen that I wanted to actually play Ravenlock.
Okay. Yep.
I just clicked on the wrong one. And as the game was loading, I was like, I'm in this now. And that's what I did. So
At
it's
least at that
engrossing
point,
enough.
it's worth a shot. Yeah.
Yeah, it is a relaxing game.
Yeah.
There's nothing really crazy about it, but definitely something to check out if you like animals. Definitely, they're all animals and they're all adorable, and you don't want any of them to die, which they can in the game if you don't make the right choices. So there's that.
Okay.
All right.
Interesting.
Decisions. Fire Emblem Permanent Death Decisions is what that sounded like too.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, there's like a weird cannon you can use in the game, which inevitably can help you in crazy situations destroy a boss easily, but at the sacrificing of one of the kids' lives. But the cool mechanic is like once the gun becomes introduced in the story, if your health gets knocked to a certain level, the cannon automatically activates. So you have to
Okay.
balance your HP throughout battles
Hmm.
because if you let it get too low, it automatically does it. And then you have to beat the enemy before you use the cannon. It's like the cannon will be used in 20 turns. All right. So now
Gotcha.
I have to beat. So, like, that's a cool mechanic. That's an
Mhm.
interesting one. But
Hmm.
other than that, medium game.
Okay.
Medium
Okay.
game.
Okay.
Movies this week then. Movies and TV shows. For me, I have seen The Flash, and I've also watched the first 3 episodes of Black Mirror. There's 2 more episodes I need to get through.
Okay.
Ooh.
What about you
Um,
guys?
Ooh.
I just watched Extraction 2.
Okay. You guys are going to be proud of me this week. I watched
Uh-oh.
Renfield
Yeah.
and I watched John Wick
Hey.
F-
Those are two good
4.
movies
Let
right
me
there.
let me clarify for the people. Yeah.
Let's see here. Where do we start? I'll talk about The Flash.
Sure.
I'll start with that one, the hottest DC
You
movie to
really
come
are
out.
on a roll with going to the theater, aren't you?
I'm
You are,
trying.
man.
I'm trying. With The Flash, kind of overall, like this definitely takes place after the Justice League. So Barry has an idea. It's really weird to say the name Barry. Now that I think about it,
Yep.
it's really weird to say that name out loud, considering it's also mine.
Yep.
But the Flash Barry, he kind of understands the Speed Force and learns that he can travel through time pretty much through through will. He can just start to travel through time, and as we go along here, you're gonna get your crazy. Michael Keaton has already shown as Batman. It showed that Barry has done something to change the timeline, and Ben Affleck is not your Batman anymore. It is Michael Keaton in this movie. And to be fair, I didn't grow up with Michael Keaton Batman. I grew up with George Clooney
Yep.
and Christian Bale Batman, but he's almost like a different universe, so I almost don't know if he counts.
Yes.
But overall, what I can say here is I like the movie. It's definitely one of the better DC films in recent years. The CGI though kind of goes from, I think, what's good and then really really weird and like blurry faces type. Like whenever they're traveling through time, it always looks good, but then like other stuff, like it's usually when the scenes aren't like a ton of action and stuff like that is when the CGI really starts to pop out, and I'm like, okay, that doesn't look as good, or doesn't, it's not as good as what the special effects were for Quantum Mania and that kind of thing. Other
Right.
than Modok, we're not going to talk about him. No. But I can say like this is one of the better DC films, and I enjoyed it. For sure. There's a lot of fun stuff I liked. I kind of liked everything they did with the. Everybody right now is going for the multiverse. Even Transformers is going for the multiverse. So everybody is trying to combine, their franchises in a way. Flash is fairly self-contained, all things considering. With like the multiverse and things like that, it gives you an idea of what it is. There's a lot of shout outs, so a couple cameos to the older Flashes, older Supermans, older Batmans
Right.
on top of it. So there's like enough callback for a lot of people to enjoy, but I also think there's a lot of new stuff that people will find to enjoy themselves as well. I should mention too, like Ezra Miller personally, yes, what he's done in his personal life, he is he's a piece of crap.
Mm-hmm.
He need hopefully he's getting help that I guess his agents claim he's getting, but overall, I thought he actually did a good performance of playing as him in one universe and him in another universe and kind of flopping back and forth between the two personalities. Michael Keaton is almost used as like just an action set piece for the most part. I think it's really hard to make Flash action sequences like grounded or not end in 5 seconds because he's so fast. But
Yeah.
it definitely feels like Michael Keaton's Batman is the action star because he's the one that's more grounded in reality because he's the human of everybody.
Yeah.
Right.
But again, overall, I enjoy the movie. The Flash is one of the better DCU movies I've seen in a long time.
Good.
Fair enough.
Do you guys plan on seeing it at all?
Not in theaters.
Yeah.
Not in theaters.
Yeah. I'll watch it when it comes out.
Yeah. That's on me too, though. Like Flash was never one of my favorite. Sorry,
Right.
never one of my favorites. In comparison to others. So
I only like him because his name's Barry. I'm gonna be
That's
completely
true.
honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I was kind of torn on this one. It's funny because like I had read something the other day that was like, oh, the reviews are horrible, and then I look up the reviews and like it's at a 67, but it's at like an 86 for audience, so that's not
Mhm.
bad at all. I did see that it's not doing very well money wise for opening weekend, but
Yeah.
that's probably to be expected.
yeah.
I mean, if you were to tell me like 10 years ago a Flash movie is going to come out the same weekend as a Pixar movie, I would say the Pixar movie is probably going to win, but like Elemental's flopping too. So I don't know if people are just like not interested in either one. Elemental is one that I'm like, I'll watch that when it's on Disney Plus, and like I feel the same way about Flash. Like, once it's
That's what
streaming,
I'll
I'll
do.
check it out. Yeah,
When it's on
DC, like
Max.
that DC universe is so hard. Like until we get that hard reset, which I think the Flash movie is the last one, right? The last movie in the old DC
Yeah,
universe
and
before James Gunn takes over.
I will say it does do some crazy stuff at the end, like
Yeah.
stuff I didn't expect, and I get it's going for that shock factor
Right.
at the moment. But yeah, you're right. This is supposed to be the reset.
Yeah. So like now James Gunn can come in and officially take control and do what he wants. Like Blue Beetle, I think is supposed to be his first. Like this is the new DC universe. Like that looks interesting too.
Yeah, Blue Beetle I thought looked interesting
Yeah.
as well.
Like I might check that one out in theaters. We'll see. I don't know like anything about that superhero, but it looks cool.
Yeah. Then for me, Black Mirror, the first 3 episodes, I'll kind of just go over them pretty quickly. I definitely think the first episode out of the 3 is the best one. Stars Selma Hayek, some other actress, but it's all about like it almost is like metaverse type stuff where what's happening is Joan is the character's name. Her life is being recorded and then played by another actress, and then it's shown the same day on Streamberry, the Netflix, copycat in
Okay.
in this universe. So, like, and then they start to everybody kind of thinks Joan is an awful person because they're navigating her life and like showing her as she is, and she just fired someone, blah blah blah, and then Selma Hayek, like how the conflict kind of arises is Joan is tired of them using her likeness, and apparently according to the terms and conditions that she did not read, Streamberry is allowed to do this. So they end up doing this, and she finds a way around it, and makes Selma Hayek do terrible things, like crap in a church and things like that. So then Selma Hayek meets our character, and then it's kind of all this more metaversey stuff that I don't want to spoil for anybody. Like that's kind of the main broad strokes of it. I definitely think that's the best episode out of the 3 I've watched. There's Lock Henry, which is kind of this murder documentary that ends up going a little bit askew, but fairly predictable in my eyes. And then there's kind of the biggest episode I think that they're trying to hype up, which is the one with Aaron Paul, and him and
Kate
another
Mara.
actor. They are what's his name?
There's Aaron Paul, Kate Mara, and I can't remember who the third one
Yes.
is in that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But what it is those two people are astronauts in space, and in order to spend time with their families, they are given surrogate bodies like robots. Main thing there is one of the astronauts' surrogate bodies end up getting destroyed, and then Aaron Paul lets his space guy use his surrogate body in order to kind of get a feel for Earth again after a terrible tragedy happens with the surrogate body. So that one is like the longest. Definitely feels like it goes on for too long, and in the end was also quite predictable. Like I liked Black Mirror just because it's a different take, and they did things I didn't expect. Like still one of my favorite episodes is the one where the two friends, and it's the one starring Anthony Mackie, and they're playing that fighting game in VR.
That was a weird one.
Like that one I liked because it was a weird sort of take on VR.
It was.
Where these ones so far have been quite predictable. But again, the first one, Joan is Awful, is probably my favorite one so far. But I expect you guys to be watching it eventually as well. There are 5 episodes this season.
Probably tonight, and I am okay with thinking that they're never going to make like another White Bear. Or because like if we're talking about unpredictability, White Bear is an episode that comes to mind that blew a lot of people away, including myself. It's one of my favorites. USS Callister is one of the better ones in recent memory. Besides, I agree with you. That VR one did have an interesting take. And Miley didn't do bad in the one that she was in either. That was an interesting enough. But it's not. I hope they can get some type of Black Mirror first, second season, or like the winter episode with John Hamm, like kind of flare back, because like I've been following these episodes. I like Black Mirror for what they do, so I can't wait to watch these.
That's fair.
That's all I watched. Your guys' turn.
Extraction 2. Barry, I know you watched the first one, right?
Yep, and I will watch the second one.
Did you watch the first one,
okay.
Craig?
I did not.
Okay. Yeah, Chris Hemsworth getting to be somebody who's not Thor, but still in an action movie. This one takes place pretty much right after the end of the first one. They really did kind of set up that first one at the end like he was not coming back, right? Like this was a self-contained movie. So when they said they were coming out with the second one, I was like, all right, I don't know how that's gonna work, but they find a way, and they are making a third one, I guess. What I'll say is it's kind of more the same. This is a straight action movie. I'm a sucker for those one take action scenes like John Wick does. There's a one take action scene in a prison yard that's like really cool. I can appreciate they do some different things that I haven't seen in an action movie. Specifically, like using heavy weaponry, like grenade launchers and that kind of stuff, in ways that I haven't really seen done in an action movie. Like when you think about like a grenade launcher and it can just be like that can like just decimate everything. Seeing him like take it and just decimate everything, I'm like, oh yeah, they usually don't do that. They'll like shoot it once, and this one he shoots it like 8 times, like he uses every single one and just like completely blows everything up. That's cool to me. There is, it kind of centers around he has to go save his wife has a sister and kids, and he's going to save them this time, get them out of a prison and take them away. The kid who plays the son does such a good job of making you hate him that like I have to give him props, right? Like he's kind of torn. There he's going in to break this family out of prison because his dad is kind of a leader of like a not a mafia but like a militia, and he has his family in prison with him and he doesn't want them to leave prison. So he goes in to break them out, and the kid's kind of torn of like, do I still love my dad? Do I still help my dad? Or do I go with my mom? That kind of thing. And like he makes some decisions that you're like, man, I hate you. And then I have to kind of step back and be like, that's actually well done for me to absolutely despise this kid so much. Be like, you did what you were supposed to do because I hate your guts. But yeah, it's a super entertaining, just like the first one. Like I would have paid to see this in theaters. And
Yeah.
it's crazy to me that this is just like a random Netflix movie that they just make. Because I feel like I don't use Netflix very much anymore. Like I don't get too excited about shows besides Stranger Things. I guess Wednesday is one of them. And like
Yeah.
this is like the movie. Every time like Extraction was good, I'm there for Extraction 2. I'll be there for Extraction 3. You know, keep giving Chris Hemsworth stuff to do. So 100% a watch for sure.
They got to justify that $15 a month pricing.
I know, right?
Remember when it was like 8? I do.
Yeah.
Pepperidge Farm remembers.
They definitely remember.
All right, so for me, there's Renfield and John Wick 4. A pretty big week for me. When we're thinking about it.
Yeah.
Renfield. So the trailer does a good job describing the movie. So what I'll talk about is what I really took away from the movie. So I really I really enjoyed like the Nick tandem that they had. So obviously you have Nick Cage and you have Nicholas. What's his last? Is it Holt?
Holt.
Is that how you say
Yeah.
it?
Yep.
Holt.
Yep.
So I really liked their tandem of him being just this person who is having this psychological and literal hold to his Dracula boss. And what I really liked throughout the movie is how they kept tying in mental health.
Yep.
So besides the comedy is fantastic. I'll get to that in a second. But what they really kept tying in was him going back to these meetings where he's talking about this person that's a narcissist that he's not able to get away from, and the comedy and the actual seriousness of him speaking like, yeah, I'm talking about Dracula. Everybody else is having a different issue, but with a narcissist or somebody who's controlling their life themselves. And throughout the movie, him and Aquafina's great in it as well. And there's jabs that keep going back to psychology, dedication to someone when there shouldn't be, when there's an abusive relationship. And it's just really interesting to see. I bow to Nick Cage, man.
Yeah. He's great.
I don't know what to say anymore besides I've run out of adjectives to describe his acting style over these years, and it's just amazing. He's just great. He plays a great Dracula, as you probably can tell. He plays a menacing guy. He's got the facial expressions for it. He's got the dry delivery when need be, but then also the angry, emotion filled delivery when he needs to as well. Um, I think they did a great job casting. My boy John Ralphio from Parks and Rec was in there as
Great.
well, doing his thing. I freaking love that dude. He's so funny in that. And in this one, it was interesting seeing him play like a mob like person in general. Um, and it's a great watch. Everybody should take a look at that one. It's currently streaming, I believe, on Peacock. It's reached that part of the agreement where it's out of the theaters long enough
Yep.
where you can see it
Yeah.
now, which is how I saw it. But definitely great one. Nick Cage is having a year already. So the other one is John Wick 4. Probably top 2 movies for me this year. I don't know.
Yep.
I watch less movies, I think, than you guys do. I think that's one of the things I need to work on continuously because I play so many games, man. I need to find a balance. But John Wick delivered. You know, you look at the runtime, and if you're the outsider looking in, like I approached John Wick originally the way I approached Snakes on a Plane. I saw the title and I was like, this is corny. Like it's just another, like you look at John Wick, it just sounds like another action movie until you watch them. And it's the same thing with the fourth one. Things that I loved in John Wick 4. The color. Like we were talking about earlier, every location that they went to in this movie was beautifully shot, beautifully done. The Japanese like embassy, or anytime they were actually in Japan, or what am I thinking of? The Continental, sorry. The Japanese Continental was fantastic. I was waiting for the scene that you were talking about, Craig, with the many stairs. And like when we got to it, I was like, Leanne, we have to watch this. Craig talked about it.
The top down.
And what the top, oh my God. The best scene in John Wick 4, for those of you who have seen it, you know exactly what we're talking about, is the top down part.
Yep.
And they did it so well. I like when action movies have that one take nature. And I like, as a watcher now, and Daredevil actually did this to me. For some reason, Daredevil did, and Birdman did this to me, is trying to find if it is a one take or not, or like if they're utilizing multiple cameras, or if they're cutting and going. Like I enjoy doing that now as a movie watcher, and that was part of John Wick 4 for me. But that top down move where he was going from room to room and really just tearing people up as he does in John Wick was fantastic. Great casting as always. You know who stole the show for me? Nobody, Mr. Nobody.
Yep. Great.
I wasn't expecting a character like that. They had him, and they had Kane, which is fantastic.
Yep.
You know, your classic blind guy in a movie that can just own everybody. But like what they did as an interesting take is the doorbell scene. Like the motion sensor doorbell scene was very interesting.
Yep.
And also, I don't know how you felt about Bill Skarsgård as a Frenchman, but like I didn't mind his accent, or like I thought his performance was great. I recognized his eyes. Like in the first scene where they show Bill Skarsgård, you don't see his entire face, you just see his eyes. And that at this point in an actor, he has such a distinguishable face.
Yep.
That I was like, is that who I think it is? You know, so like there's a lot going on. It's a great film. It doesn't feel like 2.5 hours. Spoiler alert, it is 2.5 hours or so, 2 hours and 40 minutes.
It's 3.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
3 hours.
Shows how time did not play a factor in my watch through. But it's a great flick, and I'm probably going to watch it maybe 2 or 3 times in the next year, which is big for me, you know, because rewatching is there's so many things to watch. So definitely a great, fantastic movie.
The real question though is, top 5 action movie of all time? Because I think it is. That's a tough answer.
At the present moment, yes.
Yeah.
I have to go through the library of action films. But what's great is we are going to be talking about this flick in our year reviews, and that would be a time again to bring up that question so we can discuss it a little further. But right now, I would say I would say right now.
Yep, I agree.
Perfect. I'll be watching that next week or this week here.
Sweet.
Because I have the Blu-ray. But we want to thank everybody for watching our podcast. This will be the end of the podcast, so thank you guys for listening. If you feel so inclined, please make sure to review it on your podcast listening platform of choice and share with a friend you think that might like it. If you are watching on YouTube if you're watching on YouTube, please make sure to like and subscribe. We appreciate all the support we get, and comment below with how the Final Fantasy 16 demo is mid and we're just, hyping it up far too much, or how any of the other takes that we have are terrible, like, Starfield needs to be at 120 frames or something like that.
That's a terrible take.
But we appreciate again that everybody watches and supports us, and we will see you guys next time. Have a good week.
See you later.
Bye, guys.